You say you get off at what time? All right. Well, they got a couple good ones. For the 3D. They got one at 155, and that's at closest about. Mm, I mean, shit. I've already seen it twice. I don't know what I mean. So if you want to catch everything else, you got 15 minutes previews, more than enough time to get there. You know what I'm saying? You probably get off a little early, just head straight home, and yeah, you can go check that out. All righty, man. All right. Peace. Guys. Oh my God. Hello. Am I back on? There you go. So you can see what day is. Yo, this movie, you can fall. It will fall down in the legend category. This movie is probably going to be considered one of the, if not the best, superhero movie to date. I'm not three. That'll make three times what you just saw, what you just heard. Yeah, that good. It's been a while since I've seen a movie that good that'll make me say I'm gonna spend $20 on three different occasions to see it. Picked up a little bit. I learned a lot. I watched it the first time. Guys, this video is gonna drag. It's gonna drag. It's gonna be a good, at least a good 20 minutes. I got about a good 20 minutes before my boy get off the bus. Uh so I'll have to go pick him up. So I'm definitely watching the clock. But let's talk about Spider-Man No Way Home, and how I don't even know if the Matrix Resurrections is gonna be able to live up to. It's gonna be able to follow this. People are going to be watching this movie, you know, when the Matrix Resurrection comes out and realize that, hey man, the Matrix came out, right? And this gonna be like, oh shit, all right. I'm gonna watch that on HBO Max when I get home. I'm gonna finish this. Don't focus up. Probably a bit over dramatic. Who cares? That's just my feelings and expressions. How that's just how I that's just how I feel about this movie right now. I do, like, I'm gonna go spend another, that's $60. That's about as much as you pay for one game. And I'm about to go in and spend it on the experience of a 2.5 hour movie that gives me way more enjoyment and way more fulfillment than any video game that I've played here recently. You can't. It is what it is, man. The movie was good. So we gonna talk about this movie right now in its entirety. So that's why I say, if you're not, if one, the video is gonna drag on. Two, if you're not finna stick around and you don't want any spoilers, you don't want me to ruin your good day about what I witnessed about this movie and what I'm about to talk about, I appreciate you for coming by the channel. I encourage you to please hit that like button and subscribe. Because you might not want to hear what I'm saying now, but after you watch it, come on back and vibe with your boy. Because what I'm about to say, you're gonna remember my words when you sitting there and you watching the movie. You're gonna remember my words when you walking out of the theater. Now, with that being said, Spider-Man No Way Home, man. Man, I just, it's one thing, and I said this last night in my spoiler-free review. Hope y'all watched that. If not, go check it out. I'll leave a link to it down below. But I said this last night in my spoiler-free review. This movie felt like the culmination of 20 years of Spider-Man movies being told. I have never, it felt like this was it. this couldn't have been the more fresher start for Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Spider-Man going forward in the MCU. Whenever you can probably possibly expect to see a Spider-Man in an MCU movie, you know that Tom Holland is going to be behind the mask. He's already said that he was wanted to do uh another Spider-Man, more Spider-Man movies. Uh so yeah, that's already a given. And like I said before, if you hadn't seen anything about Tom Holland or no, if you've been sleeping on Tom Holland or whatever, you need to go and watch some of his other movies. He has plenty of them where Tom pulls some of his best work. It's just kind of like the same thing I said about Robert Pattinson being Batman. People didn't like Robert Pattinson. The idea, even myself, I didn't like the idea of Robert Pattinson being Batman. But I also have watched other things from Robert Pattinson to where he was excellent in, and I don't give him the benefit of the doubt. Now, I've been no stranger to saying that I'm not the biggest fan of Spider-Man, but I am a fucking lover of the character and what the character stands for. Now, in this movie, I believe that Tom Holland nailed that to the T. Huh, damn good. And you figure with everything going on in the movie, with all the villains and the other Spider-Man showing up, and that, yeah, that's right, Spider-Man. Toby, you knew it, we knew it, ain't nothing new there. Tobey Maguire, Raimi Spider-Man, and Andrew Garfield from the Amazing Spider-Man showed up in this movie, and the way that the story and it all came together, bro, you could not have messed it up. They couldn't have they couldn't rewrite that any better than they did just then. When that hit the paper, I bet that was it. That was it. I was like, bro, don't even fucking touch it. Just let it alone. Don't give this to Kevin Feige right now. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was, and I'm glad it went down like that, and you can see that. Yeah, it might have been some edits and whatnot in there. You know, I can't wait to see the DVD version where you can see all the backstage, back behind the scenes and stuff. I can't wait. That's how good this movie is. I'm waiting for the back scenes, back behind the scenes footage, the blooper reel. You know, but nonetheless, the movie, it felt like a combination of all Spider-Man movies pulled together. Any questions that we may have had about the old Spider-Man movies, given the way that they were left off, we know that everybody had it's about Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, and everybody was waiting for the Sinister Six movie with the Amazing Spider-Mans, and it's like they took this opportunity to do those other two movies, tell the stories of the closing out those other two movies. Sorry. They took this opportunity to close out the other two Spider-Verse movies, as well as pave the way for this new wave of Spider-Man that's going forward. And I enjoyed how not only did the characters, the like, such as when the villain show, how Spider-Man, like I say, the movie started off with where Spider-Man Far From Home left off. You have the world finding out about Peter Parker being Spider-Man, and that affecting his life, how he's like a huge celebrity now, the biggest, most popular person on the planet. To hell with the blip. You know what I'm saying? You got people in New York, crazy New York is just fucking, and no disrespect, but they're just crazy New Yorkers. If you're from New York and you sub to the channel, trust me, I love New York, but just the way that the movie, the chaos ensues and revolving around Spider-Man, Peter, LJ, and Ned, and anybody who knows Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? Like, their lives are just pretty much turned upside down. They're being hazed. You know what I'm saying? We get to the point where, Peter is being like he's in jail, he's arrested, you know what I'm saying? And here we have our first big shock of the movie, which is Charlie Cox's Daredevil from the Daredevil Netflix show. If you've seen that show before, you would know exactly what we talk. Come on, it's basically confirmed that Daredevil from the Netflix series show is involved in the MCU. He is a part of the MCU, which would make everything about that show MCU related. That means from The Hand to Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, all that goodness. We already know from watching the Hawkeye show, if you watch that, that Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, is also a part of the MCU now. So, man, we getting a lot of good characters that'll be brought over as well. I mean, think about it as well. The Daredevil and the Punisher, John Burton. Was it John Burton? Is it John Burton? The Punisher. One of my best. That's one of my favorite series from all of them. I enjoyed the Punisher, and then I enjoyed Daredevil, and then I enjoyed Luke Cage, and then I enjoyed Iron Fist, and then I enjoyed Jessica Jones. I like Jessica Jones' character. Krista Ritter is phenomenal, but the show as an overall, it brought up the rear for me. Now, when they did their little Avengers style collaboration and they all took on the Hand and all that, that was a work of art itself. And then everything went into limbo. But we here now, and it's official. Daredevil is a part of the MCU. And yeah, that was shocker number one. We already saw that coming with everything going on with this multiverse stuff. As I said before in my other video, it is expected. So we got Charlie Cox in there. He's breaking down what's going on with Peter, how, he's a good lawyer and whatnot, and that they're gonna be everything should be fine and whatnot. And rather Happy might be the one to have to go ahead and get a lawyer because of whatever. And then we get a little taste of Daredevil. You know what I'm saying? A brick comes flying through the window, and he just as Peter was about to catch it. But you notice in this shot that Peter was just slower than Daredevil, and that always has been a thing between Peter and Daredevil. Or Spider-Man and Daredevil. Daredevil was always just a bit faster than Spider-Man. And you see it here because he caught that brick and boom. And Peter was like, oh, how'd you do that? He was like, man, I'm a good lawyer. Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait. So, the story continues, and we move on to Peter trying to continue a life with everything going on, the celebrity style life, people looking in your windows and whatnot. He waiting for college letters, all of them, him, Ned, and MJ. And I like the divide between these three characters, how they've grown to become more of the center of this story. You know what I'm saying? Because you see that, like you say, Peter, MJ, and Ned, they're more than just friends, they're family. But despite the fact of Peter and MJ, that's love. But Ned, for both of them, he's like the brother that binds them together. Them together, they're a trio. You know what I mean? That like it works. You can't do this movie the way that they've set this stuff up. You can't have these movies without them. And it hammers home into this movie because you really see how important that Ned and MJ are to Spider-Man and his character growth and arc in this movie. So yeah, I enjoyed the little banter between them and whatnot. Even though it was the slowest parts of the movie, nonetheless, it still was a good part. It was good to see that it's good to see them establish that in this movie. So yeah, they don't get into MIT and whatnot, and this is what leads Peter to basically make the decision to go and see Doctor Strange. And he goes to Doctor Strange, and this is what we see about the spell and all that, and we can skip past all that. But nonetheless, it does clarify that why Doctor Strange and them was looking, a little weird or whatever. And we do learn that Doctor Strange at this moment is not the Sorcerer Supreme, that Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme. And that is because Doctor Strange got blipped for 5 years, so he got it on a technicality. But he was out doing all his little Wong, doing his things, and being like traveling and being the Sorcerer Supreme, I guess, cleaning up Doctor Strange's messes. I'm assuming, or whatever, or assuming Doctor Strange's role. And Doctor Strange just sitting back, chilling, laid back, just ain't nothing to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm just the norm, I'm just a wizard. Here, what's the name? Yeah, I'm a strong one, but whatever. Peter comes up. He was like, "Hey, I need to do this. I want this." And it didn't go down like it did in the commercial, like with Wong telling him not to do it. That was the surprising thing. Here in the movie, Wong actually indulges the idea, and then he would Strange tells him, "You remember that one time at the party, some party that they was at?" And he was like, "No." He was like, "Yeah, I used the spell on you." So Wong was like, "Man, just leave me out of it," and just backs through the portal, and it closes on him. And it's like, well, I guess there was no mischievous actions behind what Doctor Strange was doing. They was just playing it like that to throw us off in the little first trailer that they showed us. So yeah, Strange goes downstairs and they get to explaining the whole thing. Now that went to the T. You know what I'm saying? The whole uh Doctor Strange casting the spell, Peter messing it up. That went down the way it did, but it wasn't as immediate as we would have seen, because after they botched the spell and then Doctor Strange managed to contain it with inside of a polygons type figure shape or whatnot. Uh he asked Peter, did you even call the people up, to go see if you can do? And this is where you see Peter's young and inexperienced in the world come to a head, which could have been which leads to a catastrophic turn on a multiversal level. You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of making a phone call to figure out why you didn't get in, why your friends ain't get in, you literally went to Doctor Strange, one of the top superheroes in the world, to ask him for a favor that you could have easily probably called and been like, "Hey, I just need to know why, I ain't," you know what I'm saying? Like, it was crazy. But guys, let me take a quick little break real quick, and then I'll pick up this recording right after this. Okay. Welcome back. Got my grandson off the bus. He's in there chilling. Let's go ahead and finish this review. So I believe I left off talking about Peter going to Doctor Strange doing his thing about the making the spell, and then he goes on to try and get his friends back in the MIT, which is where we first, after he didn't make the phone call, that's where we were. And so he catches up with the woman that he needs to talk to get his friends, I guess, cleared for MIT or whatever. And for somehow Flash manages to get into the fucking MIT for whatever reason, I guess. I don't know. But Flash hooks him up, tells him what's going on. He meets up with the woman on the bridge, and this is where we get our introduction to our first villain, the Dr. Octopus. Doc Ock, Dr. Otto Octavius, you know him, you've seen the scenes. Fight goes on, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I loved it. It was a good damn fight scene, man. It felt like it, and then the crazy part is it you can feel that it picked up right where it left off in his opinion, because he was still worried. One, he was worried about that machine, and two, when as soon as he came out, at first, the way he delivered the "Hello Peter" line, it felt like he hadn't seen him in a while, but to him, it was only just a matter of moments. You know what I mean? So, and then we go on to through the fight scene and whatnot, and to where we see that you know Peter's technology from basically what we would consider the main MCU, and I like how they make this. They establish this in this movie that this the MCU's reality is highly more far superior than other realities. Yeah, they have the technology to do what they do, such as gliders and whatnot, and the tech that they use to make the villains that they make. But to basically advance their work, they had to rely on this reality to get those things, to be able to find the ways to defeat these villains and whatnot. And I like how you can tell that in this movie. Like I say, that's also another reason why Spider-Man didn't get pushed to the side. Tom Holland's Spider-Man didn't get sidelined because the story is about him. It revolves around him. This is the growth and the origin of how Spider-Man would go on to become one of the greatest heroes moving forward in the MCU. You know what I'm saying? And this movie did a damn good job of telling that story. So he has this fight with Doc Ock, and um Doc Ock realizes that he has some new technology. It grafts to his arms and whatnot, and at this moment is where he didn't realize that Peter was able to. Our technology being so advanced, he basically took over Doctor Octopus's arms. You know what I'm saying? And he had made them work at his will on the way he wanted them to work. She go ahead, he saved the woman, subdued Doc Ock. You know what I'm saying? Talked to the woman. She said she was gonna look out for him and his friends at MIT and whatever. And he goes on to ask Dr. Octopus, man, what's going on with you? Who are you? Why are you trying to kill me? And at this moment, we get our second introduction to the Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. And man, is that when he's making his entrance or whatever, Doctor Strange whisks Dr. Ock and Peter away in that little teleport thing and locks up Doc Ock and whatnot and explains to Peter how he's going to be able to go about capturing these guys. He equips them with a little magical blaster, basically, when he hits them with it, it'll teleport them straight to the cells, their respective cells or whatever. So, yeah, the gang gathers up and whatever, and they sit out their plan, and they go out and they get the next villain, which is revealed to be Electro. Jamie Foxx's Electro and whatnot. And I like how he explains him making it here into this movie, into this MCU. Now, I may not agree with why he needs to be in this movie, considering that I don't recall Jamie Foxx's character Electro ever finding out who Peter actually was. And the spell only called for people who actually knew who Peter Parker was, Spider-Man, to come forth. But nonetheless, Jamie Foxx, his character, the reason he ended up in this world was because he explained that Spider-Man had defeated him. Andrew Garfield had defeated him, and he dissipated into nothing. Which I even said myself in that movie. How your energy, dude? What happened? You just got displaced. You gonna come back together and form up later? So be it. That's exactly what the hell he said he was doing. He was building up his energy and he was getting ready to reemerge. And when he did, he was there in this MCU universe. And that's when him and Spider-Man got to going at it. And Clint, the Sandman, comes along and steps and pretty much saves Spider-Man. And they work together to bring down Electro. And then Spider-Man tells him, hey, we going to help you and whatnot. And you get to see that Jamie Foxx ain't blue anymore. And I like how they reference that. How like the Lizard, Dr. Connors, he gets caught by Doctor Strange. He's already there, and he references this to Electro, and he was like, "Man, last time I seen you, you were blue with bad teeth." You know what I'm saying? And Electro even says, "Man, I like who I am here," and he gives himself a little rub. He's handsome Jamie Foxx. You know what I'm saying? I like who I am here. I can feel the power here, and it's crazy because that lets me know that if he never felt that kind of power, and the power we're talking about is the arc reactor power. If he's never felt this kind of power before, either one, it hadn't been created in his reality yet, and two, Tony Stark doesn't exist in his reality, and a reality without Tony Stark is an incomplete reality, in my opinion. And that goes for Raimi's verse as well, because there only has ever been Oscorp when it comes to these other Spider movies. They never reference any other company. No Stark company, no Stark Industries, no no Hammer Industries, none of that. None of that. It was only Oscorp. So Oscorp was practically the leading technological company in Spider-Man's world. But in these realities, for them not to have a Stark or anything like that, it kind of sets. This is why their realities were subpar to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, in my opinion. If you understand what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. But uh, yeah, they capture Jamie Foxx and he gets everybody down in there and what's the name in there, and then we finally get the plot that okay, these guys were plucked from the time right just before their deaths. They all died fighting Spider-Man, and this is where Peter, Tom Holland begins to see that, man, hold on, dude, like if we send them back, we're just gonna be killing them anyway, and I can't do that. So this is where the conflict between him and Doctor Strange comes, and we get our little, pretty much everything you seen from the trailer with Spider-Man tumbling through the multiverse and all that, and the train and all that stuff. And then this is how Doctor Strange tries to explain to Peter that, dude, if everybody knows who you are, and this can be dangerous for our universe because everybody's coming this way, and they know that any villains from any multiverse is going to be coming here for Peter. You know what I'm saying? So that's how we deal with that right there. And Peter was like, man, look, I just can't let you do it. Somehow the quick smarts and thinking of Peter allows him to get the victory over Doctor Strange, in this instance trapping Doctor Strange in his mirror dimension, right? Hanging over the Grand Canyon and whatnot as he goes off to do Spider-Man things to try to complete his plan, help these villains get back home alive and safe, and everything will be fixed. You know what I'm saying? But again, this is a young Peter Parker who's trying to do his best to correct his mistakes, and every time he does this, it just spirals even further out of control for him. And that's where we go on to the next part of our movie, where we have Spider-Man, Tom Holland, working with the villains, Green Goblin, Norman Osborn's version, not the Green Goblin. Actually, he's Green Goblin that took a back seat. You know what I'm saying? He did like, man, I'm gonna just sit back and see what happens, explore or whatever. Smart villain stuff. You know what I mean? And he lets Osborn go and figure out. He manages to uh catch up with Aunt May. I mean, the smarts of Willem Dafoe's Goblin in these movies it's absolutely ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like, for him to just track down Aunt May is that fast and put two and two together. I mean, he just knew that an Aunt May had to be connected to Peter, so that's what it was. He went to go find Aunt May. You know what I'm saying? So, hold on one sec, guys. So, Spike, we get to the part where, I mean, like I was saying with Goblin, his role, like I say, that he tracked down Aunt May, he put two and two together, he let everything come together. Everything pretty much came to him in this movie. You know what I'm saying? And he just sit back and bided his time, and you know what I'm saying? He just pretty much showed how much more that the MCU's world is better. Is at how much more capable the MCU's world is at making all the work that Norman Osborn and Dr. Octavius have ever worked on a possibility. You know what I'm saying? Like when the arms got stuck to they kept the story, the canon for how Dr. Octopus got his arms, and Peter was able to refabricate the chip and actually get him a new one, and when it worked and implanted in, and boom, Dr. Octopus was back to being who he wanted to be when he created the arms back then. A brilliant scientist in control of these arms that can help him contain the power of the sun, which we then find out was kind of similar to the Tony Stark's arc reactor. I mean, it was all written so beautifully to come together, and it was like, man, dude. Now it's crazy that it took 20 years to bring together 3 different universes to make this one amazing movie and to make it all make sense. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, Peter figures out he after he cures Doc Ock, you know what I'm saying? He moves on to start helping Electro and to helping all the other characters, the other villains try to get that cure and find them, get them away home. And it's then at the moment when Green Goblin basically just makes his appearance and just takes everything into it, just turns everything upside down and on his head. And now, man, Willem Dafoe, man, and Green Goblin, the way he just turns on that switch between regular Norman Osborn and Goblin Osborn is just it's the shit's scary. Because the dude was just, we know that Goblin was just more than a crazy man who could ride a god. This motherfucker was strong. He had that Spider-Man strength and that he could go toe-to-toe with Spider-Man. We saw that with anybody. He was an amazing fighter. And he took Tobey Maguire Spider-Man to the limits. Well, imagine all that aggression and all that fucking, that know-how and that knowledge of coming at a young Tom Holland's Peter Parker, bruh. When I say that he put a beating akin to the liking of the one he gave Peter at the end of the first Spider-Man and had Peter ass on wobbly lip, dude, he beat, and then he was taking some of Peter's best blow. I'm talking about Peter had him, was on his head, just drilling him. Just looking up, laughing. That look on his face, just laughing. Say, then he just Batista bombed this boy through the next floor. I was like, oh my God. Peter had never taken a beating like this. Keep in mind, Peter fought Thanos. Bruh, the beating that Willem Dafoe instilled on Tom Holland, I would have thought that was something that he wanted to do for his entire career. Like, I'm gonna beat the shit out this kid. Bruh. Dogged him. He took that man from the top of that condo all the way down to the bottom via floor service, son. Hell with that elevator. He beat Peter from the top of that building all the way to the bottom. And when he got to the bottom, he ran into Aunt May. And of course, Aunt May, being Aunt May, she gonna try to defend her boy. But come on, man. So yeah, it was the Goblin had his pay. It came through last night, that night, and just absolutely wrecked shit up, man. You know what I mean? And killed Aunt May in the process. You know what I mean? And I believe this right here led to probably to me, in my opinion, because I can relate, having recently used it, losing my mom and it being still so fresh, even though it's been a good year, it's still fresh when I think about it. The feeling of being alone, you know what I'm saying? Like that it's just overwhelming. And at this moment, I could see, like, after Peter then said his goodbyes to Aunt May, she died in his hands and whatnot. He then flew off, and he just doing his own thing and trying to figure out how to deal with the situation. And we cut to Ned and Aunt May, not Ned and Aunt May. Ned and Mary, MJ, should I say? Her name is Michelle Jones, and this we call her MJ. Ned and MJ worried about Peter, trying to figure out where he's at, and this is how we figure out that the other Spider-Man are in this universe as well, because Ned is now on the road to becoming a sorcerer for some weird reason, and it's just but I can understand how Ned can do it, because Ned believes he can do it. He knows it exists. He's always thought, his grandmother's always told him that he's magic and whatnot, and he just believed it, so he was able to do it. And that right there was in itself was impressive, and that was something that you will also have to keep an eye on for later MCU movies and whatnot, what's going on with Ned and his ability to use magic and stuff like that. So, but him and MJ talking about Peter, and he was like, man, we just wish we could see him. And they crack open, he does this little portal like you see on the screen here and whatever, and they call out to a Spider-Man figure, which waves at them, and then comes running close up and jumps through the portal, and we see that it's none other than Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man. And he goes through the test. Hey, I'm Peter. Oh yeah, prove it. Do this. Blah blah blah. They had him crawling on the ceiling and stuff like that, and it was crazy. It was fun to watch or whatever. And then all of a sudden they do it again, and they pull in Tobey Maguire, who then has a shooter web off with Tom Holland. I mean, not Tom Holland. Who has a web off with Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and they come to yeah, we work together or whatever. But they also realized, they had a feeling that Peter, Tom Holland's Peter, needs them because they could just feel it. So they go and find him after they come to the terms that he might be somewhere where he likes to go when he wants to be alone. And this part had me. It pulled at me. You know what I'm saying? Because like I say, I know that feeling. But when MJ and Ned dropped down, when MJ dropped down and he looked over at MJ, bro, I'm telling you, I know that feeling. When it feels like you all alone, dude, and you that somebody who when it feels like you're alone, and you have somebody, but what you've just gone through just absolutely makes it feel like you have nothing. But then you realize the only thing that's keeping you together, that can keep you sane, comes to you, and you look at it. It hurts to think that you can lose them too. And that's that pain and that feeling that you see in Peter's face when MJ and Ned come to his side. All he had left was them. That's at that moment, all he knew he had left was them. No one was coming to help him. You know what I'm saying? He had to do this on his own. You know what I mean? And he had even given up the fact that Doctor Strange might even be able to help him. It's just the fact that, with the loss of Aunt May and everything, and Aunt May was his Ben Parker versus what the other two had to go through, losing Ben Parker, to make them realize that they had to be Spider-Man, because Aunt May was the one who delivered the line that had never been delivered in the MCU before when it comes to Spider-Man. With great power, there must come great responsibility, But Peter being young and having to deal with everything so fast in this movie, it was, you know what I'm saying? Everything he was dealing with so much in this movie over the past 3 movies, 4 movies, 5 movies, whatever you want to count, between Civil War and Endgame, coming up then and where he's at now. You finally see the end of his story, but the beginning of his new life. You know what I mean? And Peter, he was distraught. Like when he looked up and seen the other 2 Spider-Man, he couldn't quite see him well, but when they would get close, he was on guard. He was ready. These are my only 2 friends I got left. Anybody coming from them right now about to die, and you could see it in his face. He was ready. But then they had to, of course you get nobody, when they lose a loved one, wants to be told the same thing. It's going to be all right. Everything's okay. They're in a better place. I know how you feel. We've been there. And Peter just wasn't trying to hear it. It took more than that. They had to find common ground, and we know the history of Peter Parker and from the other 2 movies and whatnot. Up until now, this Peter in the MCU had not gone through any of that. You know what I'm saying? He had his cake and was eating it too. He had MJ, he had Ned, he had Aunt May. He may have lost Tony at one point, but he still had everything that he loved and cherished, being Spider-Man and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? The Stark Tech and all that stuff. You know what I mean? He had all that, but at this moment, it was all for naught. He was learning to cope, or was learning to cope without it, and he didn't know. He didn't know how to do it. You know what I'm saying? But it was good that these other 2 Spider-Man came along, and it was cool to see them on screen together, man. It was amazing to see, spectacular to see them on screen together, man, because the way that they interacted, you could see, like, you had Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker, who was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh man, I've always wanted brothers, and man, it's really cool that you guys do this, blah blah blah. And then you got Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, which is kind of more cool and laid back. That boy told him, man, you look like what he told him, a Sunday school teacher dressed up the way he was dressed. You know what I mean? And then you got the young Tom Holland Spider-Man who's optimistic, learning, but smart enough to throw in his own 2 cents as well. And they're all smart and they're doing their Peter thing, Peter Parker stuff, science, thinking, working together, and everything between them. Is even the conversation they had before they was getting ready for the final battle about the fact that Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield have to use man-made web fluid while uh Tobey Maguire used the organic fluid, and they're like, "Man, how does it work, man? Does it just come out of your wrist, or does it come out of everywhere?" And he was like, "Have you ever have a block and whatever?" And at one point, Toby thought they was teasing him. They was like, "No, no, man, it's just cool." And they shared moments about how the villains they fought, and you know, Tom Holland asked him, "What's the craziest villains y'all have ever fought?" And of course, Tobey Maguire said, "I fought Venom, the alien symbiote from outer space," and Andrew Garfield was like, "Man, I'm lame, bro. I ain't fought nothing but a few ones with the earthly villains and one Russian dude in a rhino suit." And they shared. Of course, Tom Holland talked about Thanos and whatever, and they shared their moments, whatever. And it was good to see them doing it. It was live action into the multiverse done. They couldn't have did better, dude. I wouldn't be surprised if this movie won an award of some kind, if any kind. So we go on into the final act of the scene, and Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six, if you will, and they get to knocking off each villain one by one in this epic fight scene that's taking place around the Statue of Liberty and whatever. And we get they manage to cure everyone and whatever as Doctor Strange returns, and Green Goblin makes his entrance, blows up the damn box, the box that the spell was in, and Doctor Strange has to focus on maintaining the rifts that this breakage has caused. And as you start seeing these tears in time in the reality come through, you can see figures in the reality. And I saw one figure clear as day, even though I couldn't see the rest of them as good. One figure I did see clear as day was holding a spear, and he was standing there. And I thought, man, who the hell could be holding a spear? And the only person I can think of as a villain that could be holding the spear would be Kraven the Hunter. But I'm sure that there were other versions of Dr. Octopus. You could see tentacles and whatnot, and the Dr. Arms and other villains of Spider-Man and whatnot that were trying to come through. The shit looked crazy and whatnot. But Tom Holland's Peter, he goes into having his final fight with the Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe's character, and he absolutely turns the tide. Now driven by rage and loss of Aunt May and anger, he absolutely just beats the shit out of Green Goblin, and to the point where he was about to kill him again with his he gets to the point where he's about to kill him with his own glider again, where then Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man steps in and stops it, and he's just giving him this look like, we don't do that, bruh. As much as you want to, I know what it's like. We don't need you to do that. Because we learned through in the movie that, after the movies, we always wonder what happened to those other Spider-Man, where they kind of wrap those up with a bunch of stories about what's going on since then in their time. Tobey and MJ, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and MJ, they kind of complicated relationship, but they're still trying to work in each other's lives. Andrew Garfield, he had no one, so he began to not pull his punches when he was doing his thing. He was angry, bitter, you know what I'm saying? But I think this movie, this moment took him, it helped him understand that you can't do it. By helping Peter, Tom Holland, Spider-Man, it helped him understand that he had to grow too. He had to be the Spider-Man that he was that they were fighting for Tom Holland to become. You know what I'm saying? They're in the end, they are who they are. They always do what's right. They do what's best for everybody else before themselves. And that's what's being Spider-Man was always, that's what being Spider-Man is about in this movie. Doing what's better, doing what's best for others before you do for yourself. You know what I mean? So we get that from all of them, and that's the story that they're trying to dish off to Peter or whatnot. And throughout this, at this moment, I think Peter accepts that, you know what, I'm not going to try to, I wanted to kill him, but you know what, you're right. We're going to do this right. And they ended up curing Norman Osborn, and he back to himself. Now, my thing is, after this moment, this is where Doctor Strange goes on to, you know, he was telling Peter that he can't hold everything back. They're coming for him and whatnot and whatever. And Peter decides just make everybody forget. Everybody. And I think that was a big step, or kind of a brass decision to just say, fucking make everybody. You could have easily just said, hey, okay, make everybody except for Ned and MJ forget me. Just do that. And it just as easy as Doctor Strange cast the spell to make everybody forget, he could have easily cast that spell to make Ned and MJ the only ones that did remember. But that's not what Peter wanted. Peter didn't want MJ and Ned to remember. He wanted them to go on and have good lives and not know that he existed at all. And this was everybody in the MCU that when he cast his spells, this happened. So Strange cast this spell, and he sends this spell, casting this spell sends all the villains back to their worlds, but he sends them all back cured. Even Norman Osborn. He sends the Spider-Man back to their world after the teary goodbyes and whatnot. And hold on, got a call from my daughter. Family. All right, so yeah, man, we gonna go ahead and wrap this up, man. This was about a good hour video review, man. I told y'all I was gonna be long, and if you made it to this moment, I appreciate y'all. But now we just gonna dig into some what ifs. I mean, after the finish off what happened, the Doctor Strange cast a spell. Peter says his goodbyes to his friends, telling his promises that he's gonna come and find them and whatnot and all that and whatever. So we move on, and things are completely different than the way that the movie started. Nobody's recognizing Peter when he walks through the streets. He's practicing himself, trying to get to know his friends again and whatever. When he sees that, you know, his friends might just be better off without him, he decides against it, against reminding them that they were friends or whatever, and just takes on this responsibility that, you know what, without me in their lives, they can actually live one. It's with me in their lives and them knowing I'm Spider-Man, it just start the whole wheel right back up. And this is the step of growth that it takes for Peter to realize that I got to do this, and I got to do this way. This is the way it has to be. Now, maybe somewhere down the line, you know, I think, you know, what I took from this ending, considering that Peter was basically growing up, you see him studying for his test to get back into school and whatnot. And I have a lot of questions, and I'll make another video asking those questions. But, you know, the questions along the line of, are we going to see other Spider-Man movies after what has happened? They've gone back to their universes, you know what I'm saying? And they're cured, and things are for the better. But for how long? I want to see how this turns out. I want to see what happens in Andrew Garfield's world. I want to see what happens in Tobey Maguire's world, if necessary. But they did leave the door open for that. You know, they also gave Tom Holland's Peter Parker a absolute clean slate, fresh start. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody knows he's Spider-Man. He doesn't have the Stark tech to fall back on because nobody knows him. He has to go right back to making his own suits, which you see in the end of the movie where he gets an apartment. You know what I'm saying? It's one little bedroom, kind of reminiscent of Tobey Maguire's one little bedroom. The owner, the manager's the same type of manager, just want his rent. He goes in, you see a sewing machine and whatnot. You see some fabric laying around, and then all of a sudden you see him skating across the rooftops in a new suit, which looks pretty badass that he made. I mean, it's a fresh start, man. It's a new hero swinging through town. Everybody knows about Iron Man and all that and whatnot, or the heroes that we have around now. But Now they're going to be reintroduced to Spider-Man, a more game and ready Spider-Man, one who has been through the ringer, who has experienced his losses and his growth, and has seen more than people will give him credit for seeing. You know, I mean, this man did help fight Thanos. You know what I mean? And nobody will ever remember that. There's been things that have people he's met that will never remember him ever again. They walking by him in the street and never even think twice. But MJ did look as if she kind of remembered, or she had a feeling like we knew each other, kind of like Trinity and Morpheus. You know what I'm saying? Do you not know you? Yeah. You know, and then like I say, it's a lot of questions, and I'll ask those questions later on in the video. Guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end this one. I know I've been running my mouth about this movie for the last hour, and I appreciate you for sticking around. And I ask that you let me know what you think about this movie if you've seen it yet. If you hadn't seen it yet and you getting to this point, I told you at the beginning to leave. We were going to have a spoiler heavy conversation about this movie, so that's on you. But if you enjoyed the video and you enjoyed my review, my deep dive review in the Spider-Man No Way Home, drop a like on the video and subscribe, man, because this is what I do. I get down on movies, and I appreciate you coming through and spending the time with your boy. A good hour, man. This is amazing. I thank you. And I'm thinking about doing more of these for more videos, man, if you ain't like that. So let me know. Let me more movies. I watch a lot, and I had a lot of questions, a lot of theories. And I'm gonna put a good theory video together for this one, because it's a lot to be told, considering that the MCU is an overall branching universe. It leaves a lot to be desired. So guys, I appreciate y'all for coming through. My name is Bearded Beanie Brother. This has been another episode of the Bearded Beanie Review, baby. Y'all take it easy. Peace.